On Saturday night, Omaha, Nebraska native Terrence Crawford took on Namibia's Julius Indongo. Crawford Indongo was a winner-takes-all fight for super lightweight or junior welterweight preeminence. And at stake, technically speaking, were 6 titles: IBF, IBO, WBA, WBC, WBO, and ring belts. So on the fight, Crawford came out, and just like Jamal Charlo at 154 pounds, Crawford came out and made a statement in what was likely his final fight at the weight. So he came out, he began as a southpaw against the awkward southpaw Indongo. And early on, Indongo was he expended a lot of energy kind of bouncing around, and he was a bit tentative, but that's Indongo. People made a little bit of a deal out of it, but I mean, I didn't make a deal about it. It was that's just him. I mean, he at times when you look at him, he fights tentative, and you view it as tentative, but that's just his style. It's just awkward. So Crawford came out and he started to open up with some power shots in the second round, and toward the end of the second, he dropped Indongo. Indongo got up, beat the count. He was okay. Crawford landed a body shot mixed in between and kind of drove Indongo back. And when Crawford landed the left, I guess it grazed him, and Indongo went down. So, and sometimes when you talk about a shot on the temple or something like that, it's almost like you don't see it. And if you're a man, and I hate to go here, but I'm gonna go there. If sometimes somebody might kick you in the nuts, punch you in the nuts, whatever, and it hurts. But then there are other times when somebody might just graze you in the nuts, and man, you're in pain for like days. You're like, man, it was just a graze. But so I know that's not the best example to use, but with the equilibrium shot, didn't look like much. It actually looked like Crawford missed. And I'm not going to 100% buy that it was the equilibrium. It looked like Indongo kind of slipped but awkwardly slipped. Don't know. Didn't matter because it didn't go much further than that. The next round, as Crawford landed a big left counter shot to the body that did the damage, and then a follow-up right hand to the body didn't help much either, as Indongo was down in pain. He lay in pain and he couldn't beat the 10 count. So that was that. And that's the way you finish your career at a weight class, undisputed. Like to see undisputed guys defend their title, but it's becoming a weight issue for Crawford. It was a weight issue a couple of classes, at 135, at 130. So it's his time. The fight wasn't in Omaha. It was actually in Lincoln, Nebraska, where the Nebraska football team, the Cornhuskers, play. And there were over 12,000 fans in attendance to come out to see the Hunter, a.k.a. Bud, a.k.a. Crawford, I mean, a lot of people don't know his nickname was the Hunter. Also, so now Saturday, before we talk about the other two fights that were televised, I actually watched the untelevised undercard. There was a stream that was available on what you call ESPN3, and that was brought by way of Xfinity also. So since I'm an Xfinity customer or client, then I was able to watch it. So one thing I noticed, I mean, the atmosphere was electric. There were a couple of Nebraska. There were a couple of fighters from Nebraska that fought on the undercard, and when they were announced, man, I mean, the crowd got loud, and it stayed serious once the television part came on. When they introduced Shakur Stevenson, for example, and then they said Olympian or Olympic silver medalist, I mean, he got a very nice applause from the fans in attendance. So if you watch the event, you could just feel the energy in that arena throughout the night. Now, in the previous video, we talked about what Dillian Whyte was made of, what Mike Alvarado had left, and how Brian Jennings has recovered. So let's start with Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte was impressive. He fought big Malcolm Tan in front of about 30 people. It was one of the early fights, and wasn't many people in attendance at that time, but he caught Malcolm Tan with a left hook to the body, and the expression on Tan's face as he went down said it all. And Tan is a big guy. I think Tan's about 6'7", 6'8", something like that. So Tan got his big self up at about the count of 9.5, and the referee could have waved it off at them, but Tan got up, said, "All right, let's go." And a little bit later, eventually, Whyte walked Tan down and caught him in the same spot, left hook to the body, and Tan laid out in pain. The referee waved it off. Now, shortly after, I mean, like right after the referee waved it off, Tan got up from laying down, and he rolled over as if to say, "Yeah, man, the body shot hurt, but where's my check?" Really, it was like, I mean, if you're hurt by a body shot, it's like you're just down and you're hurt, or you get up. But he was kind of like in between, and I'm like, okay, man. So, read into that what you want. Brian Jennings, he came in, and he took on an overmatched opponent, Daniel Martz, and he did what he was supposed to do. Now, in the previous video, I warned about how this card could be chalk across the board, which it was, pretty much. Jennings landed a shot on top of Martz's head, and Martz went down on both knees, and the referee waved it off. So Martz came to do what he was paid to do, which is make Jennings look good and get Jennings some confidence. And that's how it played. Now, while Dillian Whyte might think Deontay Wilder is next, and Brian Jennings has eyes on Joseph Parker, I wouldn't be surprised if neither got their wishes right away, at least. I expect both guys to be back in the ring against slightly better rivals than they were on Saturday night. I hope Dillian does get a chance at Wilder, because it's heating up with the comments between these two guys. I mean, verbally, this is a fight you want to see. And I want to see Wilder facing a level above what he's been facing. I mean, it's time. So if the Berman-Stavern fight is going to happen, I mean, get that out of the way. And then I'm not into giving Wilder passes. I mean, I'm past that, but at the same time, White, I wouldn't be upset if he went immediately to Dillian White after fighting Stavern, should he beat Stavern. So, and the other question on the other video is, what does Mike Alvarado have left? Not much, as he was eating straight right hands and uppercuts from his opponent, Sidney Cicada, before he landed a knockout of the year candidate, Mike Alvarado. Boy. So in the 4th round, he got Sidney Cicada hurt and kind of drove him back to the ropes and got off a little bit. So as Cicada kind of spun off the ropes a little bit and backed away, Alvarado threw a 1-2, which is a jab and a straight right. It's like the first combination you ever learn, at least as an orthodox fighter. And he knocked Cicada out cold. I mean, I hope that kid is all right. I'm sure he went to the hospital and was observed, but man, big right hand. And so Alvarado I think Alvarado's got to be close to 40. It should be over 35. Alvarado's got I got to check that, but I know he's up there, and he fought whatever age he is. He fought every bit of that age, because he just looks slow and just. But he turned it up, and boy, that shot. So the television broadcast opened with Shakur Stevenson, and Shakur Stevenson fought business as usual against David Paz. It's only his 3rd fight, and Shakur showed some flashes of what's to come, but I mean, it's just too early to know. He's slick. He probably isn't going to have a lot of pop. Power just isn't something he's been blessed with. But he can learn to do things like to jab more and to sit down and throw body shots. Anytime Stevenson threw his jab, I mean, it was very effective. I mean, he snapped the neck of Paz back a few times. And Pernell Whitaker was slick, and he didn't have much power either, but when he hit you to the body, he could hurt you and he could drop you. Felix Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya both learned that when Whitaker was already past it, and they fought him. So I think had either one of those guys caught him while they were in their prime and he was in his prime, boy, man. So maybe that's something that Shakur Stevenson can develop also. Did anyone notice the first 2 minutes of Stevenson versus Paz when Teddy Atlas and Andre Ward kind of let the world know that they're not best friends? Oh man, maybe he's upset Ward replaced his latest trainee, Timothy Bradley, who recently retired. But they kind of went at it. I'll say the first 2 minutes, maybe even a little longer than the first round. They kind of both said, okay, obviously you didn't hear what I said, so let me say this. And okay, I heard what you said, but let me disagree with you here. I mean, it just, I mean, you sensed a little bit of tension between the two guys. Something else I also noticed in that fight was Stevenson knocked Paz's mouthpiece out twice, and Paz just kind of stopped both times when it happened. And so did everybody else. Shakur and the referee included. Let me tell you something, son. You are a fantastic amateur, but this is the big league. When something like that happens, you need to jump on him and knock his teeth out. Trust me, he won't do that same thing in a few years. He'll know to keep fighting, unless the referee stops you. And he should have went after Paz, in my opinion. Another thing I noticed, one thing that irked me on this telecast was before the Crawford and Indongo fight, on the top left of the screen, it said live coming up, Undisputed Junior Welterweight Championship. It kind of took too much space. It just took too much space up on the tube, and I didn't like that. Right before Crawford and Indongo was the co-feature, as we hear a fire truck drive by. You had Alexander Volzdik, he wasn't impressive to me. He stepped on the gas late and got the limited Craig Baker out of there, but wasn't that impressed. In this fight, I mean, once Alexander got going, it started with an overhand right on the ear that dropped Baker. Baker got up, he beat the count, but then a flurry of punches followed, and Alexander caused the referee to step in and to kind of save Baker, who was defenseless pretty much. Now, I saw Alexander fight live in his last fight. He took on UNDISPUTED Gonzalez, in which he looked superb, and a lot of people thought Gonzalez would win that fight. So this might just be the type of fight here where he was going through the motions and felt that he was ready for a shot. While I like to see him take one or two more fights before he gets that shot, his resume and his age, he's 30, probably has him feeling like the time is now. So there may be a push to get him a title shot. Maybe he matches up with Andre Ward. Who knows? Who knows? So Alexander, he's beaten UNDISPUTED Gonzalez, he's beaten Najib Mohammadi, he's beaten Isaac Chilemba, he's beaten Tommy Karpensi, and so that's not a bad list for a guy. And personally, I like to see him get more work, but hey, this is boxing. So coming up this week, I guess I'm going to sell my soul, which I said I wouldn't do, and give some type of McGregor and Mayweather breakdown. I won't be watching the fight. I'll be watching the Miguel Cotto card on HBO if that ends, or if it just depends on the timing. I'll probably watch Badu Jack versus Nathan Cleverly. I don't think either one of them deserves the belt the vacant title that they're fighting for, but hey, as I stated, this is boxing. But too many people have asked, so I'll do a little breakdown on the event. I won't call it a boxing match. And that's it for this one. Catch you guys later in the week on the next one, and then I'll follow that up maybe a week later with the Gennady Golovkin versus Saul Canelo Alvarez breakdown. Catch you on the next one.